We don't just want reform. Everybody's talking about reform. We must set a goal of having the best legislature in the country. Why not? We're New York. We all know we're not close. So let me tell you a story. I once lived on Beverly Street here in Rochester. And my family, for $35 a month, went to Victor, New York, and opened up a business. That business became one of the largest employers in Rochester. It was then called Cordite. It's now called P-A-C-T-I-V. Makes hefties, bags, etc. And I participated in a vibrant business community here with incredible jobs, and I had a wonderful time as a youth growing up here. Let me tell you another Victor story. A man and a businessman from Victor, together with State Senator Alesi, offered Pedro Espada $2 million, not a dollar, $2 million, to switch parties. In addition, this businessman, backing Alesi, right here in Rochester, offered this man, this crook, to be president of the Senate. Next in line to be governor once Patterson became governor. That's not reform. That's cynicism. For me, who spent time in a factory in Victor, to see that happen is outrageous. That's why, one, I just finished with New Roosevelt, with the help of many people, throwing Pedro Espada out of the state legislature. And we're here to throw Alesi out of the state legislature. People in Rochester do not realize what this man did after 16 years. For him to have supported that move is outrageous. Now, equally outrageous is after Alesi and other crew of Republican leaders took Espada, is the weak Democrats took him back. Just as bad. At that point, as the former finance chair for the DSCC, who took over the state Senate, I moved outside the party. As did my partner back there, Wave Doug, who ran every single state Senate campaign. We said we must now work independently, put together a reform independent group that throws out the bad guys in both parties. And we have done that. The first time in history that a leader, a majority leader of a party, an incumbent, not only got thrown out, but beat 66 to, where are you, 33? 32, 33. And of course you had nothing to do with it. Not your personality, not your charm. But the fact is, we did it. That sent a message. We first said, Pedro, we're coming after you. We're now saying in Rochester, New York, which is about to have an outstanding lieutenant governor in Mayor Duffy, Alesi, we're coming after you. You cannot hide from what you did. People don't realize what you were part of. Now, why Mary Wilmot? She and I have some past, not together, that we've shared that is interesting. Since I did grow up here, I dated a Wegman, etc., etc. We won't go there. But I knew of her family and had deep respect for her grandfather. But tell me in the history of someone running for the state Senate, who's not even in office, who is going to have to join the conference that determines where her desk is, what staff she gets, that she stood up in Rochester, New York, to her own party and said, don't count on me. If Espada gets elected, I won't vote for him. You should know. And not only that, not that my community really knows a lot about Pedro Espada, I'm going to back this truly independent, reformed Democrat named Gustavo Rivera. That took incredible courage. That impressed me. It should impress the voters. And the second piece is I'm a businessman. Yeah, Mary's a reformer. But she's pro-jobs and business. And with Mayor Duffy in office, nobody is going to be able to help this community like Mary Wilmot in the state Senate. Alesi will not only hasn't done anything for this 16 years, cynically took Espada in, but he does not have the pro-jobs record that Mary has, and myself as an active member of the Democratic Party has. The only thing reform means in the end is good jobs. So with that, that's why I'm here. Mary's going to get all the support she needs if the people in Rochester give her some money and go out in the field and campaign. And with that, I want to introduce the first new Roosevelt. That's named after FDR and Teddy. We're bipartisan. We believe in a strong Republican Party too. This man is not only the new state senator, will be the new state senator from the Bronx, he's going to be a statewide leader. He's truly independent, and one of his first acts is to come up here and support Mary and say there's no upstate, downstate division. With that, my buddy and future great leader, Gustavo Rivera.
Thank you, Bill. Good afternoon, folks. Now, I'm far from home today. I live all the way down in the Bronx, and I came all the way to Rochester first time that I'm visiting. And why am I doing that? Well, first of all, I'll talk briefly of why I'm here in the first place. Why am I the Democratic nominee for the 33rd Senatorial District? There was a little coup last year. You probably heard about it. After working for years to get the Democratic Conference into the majority, Mr. Espada and Mr. Montserrat, who are no longer in the Senate, raised their hands, stood with the Republicans, switched over their allegiance, and held up the entire state for a month. Now, I have been working in the Democratic Conference when we were still in the minority. And the reason why we worked so hard to make sure that we would get to the majority was simple. Because we knew that if we had a Democratic majority that was stable and trustworthy, then we could actually get things done. When it comes to issues of job creation, when it comes to issues of health care, when it comes to education, any and all of these things, we have different opinions, but to be able to get together and actually approve legislation that gets anything done in any of these issues, we need a stable, trustworthy majority. And we did not have that. Pedro Espada raised his hand, and as I was living in the Bronx, as I've been there for the last 10 years, something that welled up from down here told me that I was compelled. I had to run for the seat. And I did. And we were successful. But now, we are in the next step. I am only the Democratic nominee, but I wanted to make sure that I came up here. Because what we need, as I said, is a Democratic conference that is stable and trustworthy. Now, someone like myself who is from downstate needs to have an understanding of upstate issues, needs to have an understanding of why, of how it is that we can work together to make the entire state better. And to be able to do that, I need to be able to look across a table and not see someone who is going to disagree with me simply because he's in the opposing party. I want to make sure that I look across the table and I see somebody who is of good conscience, who is smart, who may have different opinions than I do, but still shares basic values and basic values of a Democrat. That's what I want to do. And I wanted to come up here because I wanted to support Mary Wilmot. She is somebody that I'm going to be able to look across the table and say, what can we do together to make sure that the entire state does better? That is not something that I could do with Mr. Alesi, who has been there for a very long time, not doing much. But what he did do, as Bill said, was stand up with the Republicans and say, you know what, let's make Pedro Espada the president tempore, or whatever it is, the title that they gave him. That is absolutely unacceptable. This state, we need to move in a new direction. To be able to do that, we need, again, a stable and trustworthy Democratic majority. And the way to do that is to get people like Mary Wilmot elected to the state Senate. So I am here to support her today, and I will do anything I can to make sure that she is a colleague of mine come in January. Because there's a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do. We did what we needed to do last week or 2 weeks ago with Pedro Espada. I'm going to call him past tense from now on. So Senator past tense, or I'm not even calling him Senator. Mr. Past tense. We're done with him. Now we have to move towards the future. And to do that, we need new senators in the state Senate. And that is why I'm here today to support Mary Wilmot. And I'll introduce her to you now. The next state senator. Next state senator from Rochester, Mary Wilmot.
I just want to thank Bill Bill and Gustavo for coming to Rochester and supporting my candidacy. This is a very critical time in New York State history, and what we do next will impact the next generation, and we have to be very careful about how we proceed. We have a budget crisis that we haven't experienced in a long time, and our next steps are crucial. We need good people in government to make things happen and to change the face of Albany, and Gustavo's a great first step. I give him a lot of credit for the courage to run against Pedro Espada, and I'm so proud of him for doing it, and I look forward to serving with him. But I also need good people like Bill Samuels by my side who talk about things like reform. You know, we need to make this a business-friendly state again so that we can grow jobs in upstate and downstate. And in order to do that, we need to also talk about reform. It's essential to making that happen. People from outside our community and our state don't have the confidence to invest in New York anymore. And it's about growing that confidence again, and we do that by fixing Albany. Upstate is a beautiful place, and we have tremendous assets, as does New York City. Our big problem is the dysfunction in Albany and what goes on there every day. So by changing the faces, and like Gustavo now being another senator that I can work with, we'll have a huge impact. But we need to talk about things like budget reform, independent redistricting, and other issues that are tough to talk about, but it's time. And if we don't, our children will suffer. We have tremendous debt, and we have we're overspending, and that's the essential part of our problem. So we need to work together, partner with downstate again, stop, being in the midst of this divide, instead partnering with them, but also work very hard as an upstate coalition community to be a strong voice in Albany, and that's what I plan on doing. And thank you for coming today. We'd love to answer questions for you.